on during the sunny days. If it's rainy or it's any other season, you don't need to wear sunscreen. Is that true?
Many people do believe that's true, but unfortunately not, because a cloud cover is not sufficient to block the UVA UVB light.
What are your tips about stress management, acne, exercise, and diet?
And you're eating more of colored fruits, vegetables, proteins. These are all good things to have to your skin, and these are all proteins which will encourage your skin to look good and your hair to grow as well. A combination of diet and exercise is the best way to go, Sia.
Welcome everyone on our today's episode at #Sunscreen Must Podcast, which is all about protecting your skin and celebrating the National Sunscreen Day, which falls on May 27th this year. Sunscreen is an absolute must throughout the year, no matter what season it is. But during the summer season, it's especially more, and it's a great time to refamiliarize ourselves with sun safety practices. So in today's session, we'll be learning the importance of sunscreen, different types of sunscreen, and how to apply them, and how to select the best sunscreen for you. We'll also be debunking some commonly shared sunscreen related myths, and today to educate us all on why sunscreen is important, not only during the summer season, but throughout the year, we have the renowned dermatologist, Dr. Shireen Furtado, here to educate us all on #Sunscreen Must Podcast.
Hello, namaste everyone. My name is Dr. Shireen Furtado. I'm a senior consultant dermatologist at Aster CMI in Hyderabad, and I also consult at Ayana Clinic, where I'm the director. Today's topic would be about sunscreens, and this is a topic which is very close to my heart because this is one way that we can prevent skin cancers and maintain a healthy skin.
So, Dr. Shireen, it's very nice to see you here. So, before we begin our talks, which are going to be very long, we'd like to know more about you. Why did you choose the medical field? What made you become a doctor? And why specialization in dermatology?
Thank you so much for that question. Becoming a doctor was something which I always wanted to do, and becoming a dermatologist, why not? Skin is the largest organ. So, what better way to figure out what's wrong with the patient by looking at the signs the skin gives us? So, I've been practicing dermatology for a long time now. It's almost been 17 years, and I am very happy with the field because it is one of the ways the skin always shows signs of what's happening inside the body. So that's the reason why a dermatologist.
That's so nice to hear, Dr. Shireen. So I recently read somewhere that sun exposure is the leading cause of skin cancer. So is it true?
Yes, yeah, that's very much true because the narrowband UV light and UVA light, which we get from the sun, is one of the leading cancers causing radiations which are there out there, and many people are unaware of it.
So how can we prevent it? How can we protect our skin from the harmful effect of sun rays?
Luckily, that's very simple to do by protecting ourselves by using a good sunscreen, maybe a 30 or 50 SPF one. We can protect our skin from both the UVA and UVB rays. UVB is the one which causes the immediate effects that we see, but the UVA is the one which is a leading cause of skin cancers.
That's so nice to hear. So I recently read somewhere that sun exposure is the leading cause of skin cancer. Is it true?
You're absolutely right, Sia, because sunscreen is very essential to protect ourselves from the sun rays, which is one of the leading reasons for skin cancers. We have both the UVA and the UVB light, UVA being one of the leading causes of skin cancers.
So how can we protect ourselves from the harmful effect of sun rays?
Luckily, skin cancer is something which we can definitely protect ourselves from, especially cancers of the sun exposed areas. So there are some skin cancers which have a predominance for the areas which are exposed to the sun, especially the UVA light, and skin cancers can be thus prevented by using UVA and UVB protective sunscreens.
Okay, that's very descriptive. I
Yes.
love the explanation.
Yeah.
So there are many different types of sunscreens,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Can you tell us more about it?
Yes. So there are different types of sunscreens out there, and now people are more aware of sunscreens and the way that we are going to use sunscreens. So we have our chemical sunscreens and we have our mineral sunscreens. And there's also a combination of the two. That's the mineral and chemical sunscreen combination. So the physical sunscreens or the mineral sunscreens are those which are more suitable for skin which is very sensitive. And these are sunscreens which have both titanium dioxide and zinc oxide. Now,
Okay.
these are very simple chemicals which bounce off the UVA and UVB light. And whenever it falls on the skin, it doesn't allow it to get absorbed. So it's a very basic type of sunscreen. And then we have the chemical sunscreen, which is, these are chemical compounds which form a film on the layer of the skin, and they prevent the absorption of UVA and UVB light by the skin. And then is your combination of both UVA and UVB. So there are different types of sunscreens which are currently available in the market. The trick lies in choosing the right one for you.
So, how can we choose the right one for us?
That's a very relevant question, Sia, because choosing the right sunscreen is finally all about what today is about. So, when we're choosing a sunscreen, it depends on various factors. It depends on the age of the patient. It depends on the skin type. It depends on the type of whether there is an acne-prone skin, whether it's a sensitive skin, rosacea-prone skin. So, all these things can be definitely kept in mind when choosing a sunscreen. And many people feel that if they have an oily skin from the time they are a teenager, it continues remaining oily through life. That's not true. So through life, depending on what is your situation, are you in an indoor job, in an outdoor job? Are you the type of person who gets a lot of acne? What kind of medications you're on? All these are factors which affect the type of your skin. So whenever you're choosing a sunscreen, if you have a very sensitive skin type, please choose a mineral-based sunscreen, especially one with zinc oxide, titanium dioxide. It might leave a bit of a cast, but we can definitely, oversee that by using a tinted type of sunscreen to get rid of the cast. Then you have people with acne-prone skin. They don't do well with physical sunscreens because they can cause acne. So for them, we use a chemical sunscreen, which is gel-based. And so different skin types can have different type of sunscreen. But what also is very important is the way you use sunscreen.
Okay, now that we know which is the best sunscreen for us, now that we have chosen the right sunscreen, now let's get to applying it properly. How can we apply it properly?
Yes, yeah. So applying a sunscreen properly, at least when we were studying, when we were students, we had sunscreen with tubes with the nozzle was quite big. So there we were told that you need to use a generous 1 fingertip unit for your sunscreen. But now we have sunscreens with very thin nozzles. And if you look on social media now, everyone is talking about the 2-finger rule. Now, the 2-finger rule will work well if you have a very thin nozzle which is delivering your sunscreen. So you need to take 2-finger fully of a thin nozzle sunscreen. Or if you're using a sunscreen which has got a thicker nozzle, have a generous amount, that is from the crease of the first finger till the tip of it. It should cover this entire length. And this is the amount that will protect your skin from the UVA and UVB light which is incident on the skin.
Beautifully explained, but a demo would really help the viewers. Would you like to demo?
Sure, Sia. I'll be happy to show you. Now, if you look at this sunscreen, it has got a very thin nozzle. And if you are going to apply, it has to be a generous amount of this. So this is the amount. So this will amount to a thin nozzle sunscreen where you have 2 fingertip units, and this is your 1 fingertip unit, but a generous quantity.
Coming on to my next question, it's a very commonly said one. So does sunscreen remove tanning?
Oh, Sia, I wish it did, but it doesn't remove tanning, but it can prevent a person from getting tanned because of UVB light. So if you're using a sunscreen which has got UVB filters, it can reduce the ability of the body to tan. But as Indians, all of us are generously blessed with a lot of melanocytes on our body, and these are sun protective. They protect our body from the sun. So whenever we go to the sun, the melanocytes get a little active and they produce a lot of melanin, which incidentally helps to disperse this harmful sun rays. That is tanning, but not many people like it. So sunscreens can reduce the amount of tanning, but they cannot do away with it completely.
That's a beautiful explanation. Now we are getting into debunking some commonly shared sunscreen related myths. Okay, so the first one is very common, that sunscreen blocks vitamin D absorption. Is it true?
It's not true, Sia, simply because there was a study which was done with a large cohort of patients, and we found out that patients who physically didn't go out to the sun had vitamin D deficiency compared to patients who used sunscreen and went out to the sun. So it's not only about getting vitamin D only from the exposed areas. Your skin does produce vitamin D when the sunlight incidents on it. So it's not true that sunscreen causes vitamin D deficiency. Rather, not physically stepping out in the sun causes vitamin D deficiency.
It's a beautiful explanation. Getting on to the next myth, that's also a very commonly shared one, that like a tan skin, if you have a tan skin, it means that you have a healthy skin. Is it true? It's a very commonly shared misconception, especially in a country like India, that if it's a tanned skin, then it's a healthy skin.
I think this concept has got more to do with the West, where people are very pale looking, Caucasian skin, and they would rather go to tanning salons and get a tan to make themselves look healthy. So, this is generally a fake tan which is sprayed all on the skin to give an appearance of an healthy skin. I think we Indians are genetically blessed with a good tan anyway.
Okay, myth number 3 is that sunscreen is only to be worn during the sunny days. If it's rainy or it's any other season, you don't need to wear sunscreen. Is that true?
Many people do believe that's true, but unfortunately not, because a cloud cover is not sufficient to block the UVA UVB light. So even on a cloudy day, you are getting the rays which are harmful for your skin. So please use your sunscreen irrespective of whether it's a sunny day or a cloudy day. Forget that. Even if you're indoors and you have large windows in your house, you do get something called an incident light, a light ray which is reflected, right? So that itself is enough to cause. So it's always good to use a sunscreen even if you're indoors in a house which has got large windows.
That was a very commonly shared
Yes,
myth.
yes,
I'm so
absolutely.
glad you have
Yeah.
shared such infographics about it. So for the next myth, there are many sunscreens available in the market. Okay, but most people believe that only SPF 50 or more will be able to help you from preventing tanning. So is that true?
So I'd like to say this out that the best sunscreen you have is the one that you're actually wearing. So it is irrespective of the sunscreen. What is actually important is wearing the sunscreen correctly. So anything above 30 SPF is good enough for the skin, provided that you're using it frequently if you're outdoors. So if you're indoors and you're using the sunscreen one time, that's still okay. But if you're outdoors, you have to use the sunscreen every 2 to 3 hours to make sure that it continues to remain effective.
That's really helpful. So for the myth number 5, we all wear sunscreen every day, right? And it's on the daily basis, so we are everywhere. We are at the workplaces, we are maybe at a water park. So it's a common myth that sweat and water can remove your sunscreen. Tell me more about it.
That's right, Sia. So if you're a type of person who's very sporty and into sports, you have to look for a water resistant tag on your sunscreen, because these are the ones which actually stay on your skin for a little longer and they do not go away with water and sweat.
For the next myth, it's a very common myth that once you apply sunscreen in the morning, it can give you protection all 24 hours. Tell me more about it.
Yes, so sunscreen application has to be done more frequently if you're physically out in the sun. So if you're going to remain indoors, a sunscreen application in the morning and afternoon post lunch should suffice, indoors with large windows. And if you're outside physically in the sun, especially near a beach or holidays, please try to use it every 2 hours, because a chemical sunscreen would need frequent application.
There's another very common misconception that sunscreen only has to be applied on your face. So, is that true, or do we need to apply it somewhere else?
So it depends on what you're wearing, Sia. So if you're wearing clothes which are covered, even a cotton opaque t-shirt which is covered and it is full length, that itself gives you sun protection by virtue of its physical protecting you from the sun rays. However, if you're going to be using clothes which are very scanty, or if you're using a spaghetti top, or men are going topless to the beach, then that's not enough to protect you from the sun. So it's always better to use either a spray-on lotion or on the skin which is exposed, or a sunscreen lotion on the exposed part as well.
For the next myth, it's a common myth that sunscreen cannot be applied on makeup, or it can be applied on makeup. There's a huge confusion behind that. So, could you please tell us more about that?
So sunscreens are not like smoothies. We cannot combine it with other things, right?
True.
So, but sunscreens can definitely use over your hyaluronic acid initially to give you that first layer of protection, and after it dries, you can use your makeup over it.
Understood. Dr. Shireen, what are your general tips for our viewers?
So thanks for that, Sia, because the general tip, especially as a dermatologist who's seeing a rising concern about skin cancers on exposed areas, I would highly urge our viewers to consider using a sunscreen which they like every day, even before wearing their makeup or before stepping out to the sun, simply because it causes your risks of cancers to be reduced by that much. And it is a very simple way of application. Any way you would wash your face and use a moisturizer when stepping out, why not combine that with a sunscreen which has benefits in preventing our skin from absorbing harmful rays of the sun?
Thank you so much for that. I'm sure that our viewers will listen to that advice. So, the last question I'd like to ask you is see, nowadays we have so many factors which affect our skincare, be it exercise,
Yeah.
diet, stress management. Now that stress is causing acne for people.
Yes.
So, what are your tips about stress management, acne, exercise, and diet for our viewers?
So, whenever you see anyone with good skin, there will be a reason why their skin is good because you're working towards it, right? So, it's not only about what you apply on your skin, it's what goes inside. So, if you're eating healthy, if you have reduced the amount of processed stuff in your diet, if you're not very heavy on milk and milk products, if your sweet intake is less, and your maida consumption, all purpose flour consumption is at a low, and you're eating more of colored fruits, vegetables, proteins. These are all good things to have to your skin, and these are all proteins which will encourage your skin to look good and your hair to grow as well. So it is a combination of your diet and a good exercise which reduces unnecessary insulin in the body, which can cause acne by itself. So a combination of diet and exercise is the best way to go, Sia. It's not only about external application, but the entirety, the holistic approach to the skin.
I'm sure that will be pretty helpful for our viewers. So, for the next question, I'd like to ask you today is National Sunscreen Day, it's May 24th, and the global warming heat waves they are rising every year. And earlier, it used to not be this hot.
Yes.
Now it's hot all year round. So, considering that, what are your tips for our viewers?
So this global warming is something which is inherent in the future, and is something that we all have to look at and prevent. Also be very mindful about our global footprint of carbon, and then make sure that we are reducing what we can do to harm the earth. And the other thing, Sia, is when it comes to the skin, we have to make sure that whenever we're wearing clothes and going out to the hot sun, it's not a bad idea to have a light UV jacket to protect us from the harmful rays of the sun. It may not be possible always to use sunscreen all over the body, but at least cover the part of the skin which is exposed to direct sunlight.
That's very true. Thank you so much, Dr. Shireen, for taking your precious time out of your busy schedule. And I'm sure that these advices they will help our viewers in achieving not only protection from harmful effect of sun rays, but also get a shiny, radiant skin, which will help their confident personality. And viewers, thank you so much for spending your precious time with us at the hashtag Sunscreen Must Podcast. We are available on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Don't forget to stay connected to get more advices from the best dermatologists of our country. Thank you so much.